What is up, everybody? Another little stream today. Gonna go over some mock drafts. I have some mock drafts pulled up that we'll go through, see what people are, thinking. It's just fun to see different draft scenarios. And mock drafts are always, kind of fun to look through. We'll continue just talking different NFL draft prospects, things like that too. I got more guys. Maybe preview the Senior Bowl a little bit. That's coming up in I think next week, which we'll definitely talk about the Senior Bowl a lot when that actually happens. Just a fun time in the year. Also, hey, let me go here. Boom. And then, yeah. Oh, shout out Chop Robinson, by the way, because Chop, I believe, is a Defensive Rookie of the Year finalist in the top 5. So that's always nice to see that when, one of your picks actually works out. Yeah, but I'm just not rushing through. What's up, Grant? How you doing? What is up? Let people get in here. Yeah, I've just been watching more film. I got a lot of... I'm looking at my lists. I don't have them all ranked yet. I'm still waiting to the rankings. I have some of it ranked. I have some first and second rounders ranked, but I've watched film on a lot of guys now. I at least have some notes on a lot of players. I'm trying to go through the Senior Bowl list and try to watch as many of the Senior Bowl guys I can before the actual Senior Bowl. And then when the Senior Bowl practices start happening, we'll see who stands out. Maybe make some videos on some film breakdowns on some Senior Bowl guys. I've been making a lot of film breakdowns actually over the past few days. 4 or 5. They're members only right now, but they'll be available. But if you want to see early access to some film breakdowns on NFL draft prospects, join up. And then yeah, I got these mocks pulled up. Appreciate it, Scotty. Yeah, I've been trying to think. Who did I just do? I just released Jonas Sanker. If you guys haven't seen that, he's a Virginia safety. He's a day 3 safety, but one of the guys I really liked. Out of guys who had seen that were more day 3 prospects, he was more he's one guy that I think will work out. Maybe I just like Virginia players because last year was Malik Washington. This year, Jonas Sanker, but well-rounded player that I like. And I got Gunnar Helm, another obviously player that I like a lot for the Dolphins. I also just made videos that I haven't completely released yet, but let me look at it. I have Wyatt Millum. I just made Wyatt Millum members only. That will be out, in a few days. I did Caden Prather, the Maryland receiver. That one will be out. Aeneas Peebles, another guy I made a video on. I already recorded all of those. Those are already literally made and uploaded. They're just members only for right now, but you'll see those soon enough if you're not a member. But yeah. Armand Membo, that guy's so good. Definitely an all. I'm a big fan of starting to come around to some players, maybe, because we've seen things at 13. I think 13 is pretty wide open and can go in many different directions. What's up, Garrett? How you doing? What about the Shrine Bowl? Yeah, let's see. I might make a video on some Shrine Bowl players, maybe Kenneth Grant or Chris Paul Jr., because those are the best guys at the Shrine Bowl, I believe. And I think Chris Paul is another guy that's kind of underrated right now. Bo, huge fan. Yeah, Bo's really good from Purdue. He's definitely Bo's just the only thing is I don't know what position he'll play at the next level. That's the only thing I'm not sure on about him, because I think he can play maybe all of them, tackle, center, guard. I think people might not want to play him at tackle because I don't think he has the longest arms, but I wouldn't be surprised if tackle's his best position just because he's so good at mixing up his sets, his hand usage. He's very nuanced and he's a very good athlete. Yeah. I like Bo a lot. Let's see. Maybe let some people get in here before we start pulling up some of the mock drafts. Is there anyone else I watched? Yeah, I like both Membao and Membo. I looked up how to say his name, and all the people that pronounced it in the videos all pronounced it differently, so I just didn't know. But Armand Membo, and then yeah, Bo played. A lot of these guys in this class played tackle in college, but I think a lot of them will move around. But I think Bo's just one of those guys you take. Maybe you don't know exactly where he's going to play, but he's going to work out at one of the positions eventually because he's just too athletic, too smart of a football player. Also, I I think it's the Dolphins defensive backs coach, right, is coaching the DBs at the Senior Bowl. And in his group are 2 corners that I saw the full group, but there was 2 that I really liked. One being Jacob Parrish, who we've talked about, the Kansas State corner, small, feisty. He actually kind of reminds me of Mikey Sainristil from last year, the Michigan corner. Man coverage guy, and he's playing good for the Washington Commanders. But like he can play nickel outside. And then there's this other guy that I really like, who I just recently found out about. I think Bilhal Cone from Western Michigan. It's Bilhalkone. I'll type it in chat if you guys haven't seen this guy yet, but he's a player I like a lot, and I know the Dolphins DB coach will be coaching him at the Senior Bowl because he's like pretty good size. I can't remember the exact size, but I think like 6'1" something, not super, but he's like lengthy, really athletic. Like he can play man, zone, instinctive, like his ball skills. I think he's really fluid. I think sometimes there's those longer guys that aren't fluid, and I really value hip fluidity in a corner, and I think he's super fluid. He's a video guy I plan to make a film breakdown on soon too. Okay, let me 1 second, Anthony. Let me write something down here. Yeah, so Stutzman and Barton, 2 guys. I feel like when I went into watching, I watched both of them, and I went into it, I feel like having higher expectations because I feel like I saw them ranked pretty highly out of the linebackers. So I didn't like them as much as I feel like I should have. I think I should probably give them another chance. I think Stutzman was like, clearly when you look at him, like he's got, what's his size? I'm gonna look it up real quick. I'm pretty sure he's got like a lot of good physical tools, and you can see yeah, he's 6'4", 240. So that guy's got good size. He's athletic as hell. I really like his coverage ability and like his movement skills. So like I'm a fan of like that side of Stutzman. It's just I think his inconsistency versus the run was something that I think there was like gap integrity problems, just taking himself out of position, and then I think his play strength wasn't the best at like stacking and shedding and things like that. So there was kind of like some issues I had with Stutzman's game. And then Barton was kind of weird too, but he was a little bit different type of player. Let's look up what Barton's size was, because he kind of played, I liked his versatility. Another guy that was athletic. He's 6'4", 236, so like slightly smaller, but like I remember him playing like some edge and stuff like that. But he's another guy that I liked in coverage. Made some tackles, but I didn't feel like he had quite the level of instincts that I liked in versus the run as well. So those are both guys that like I wish they were a little bit better playing versus the run, taking on some blocks, things like that. But there's definitely some stuff there to work with. Yeah, Bill Cone, Western Michigan corner. That guy I really like. I just watched him recently. Very fluid, long, lengthy, athletic, instinctive, plays man, zone, ball skills. Excited to see him at the Senior Bowl. Definitely a name to know. Yeah, everyone's getting... It's because when you pronounce the Missouri right tackle's last name, it sounds like that should be what the Purdue's kid's last name is, but I'm pretty sure MBOW is just pronounced like Bo, which is interesting. The majority, yeah. Thoughts on 7? Yeah, the Arizona kid. I like him in like the 3rd round. I've seen some people have him in the 2nd. I'm not quite there. I just don't think he's the level of athlete that I prefer. But like if he's a guy that you get like 3rd, even maybe 4th, that'd be good too. I wouldn't mind it. I think he brings some physicality in the interior. I just think he wasn't as consistent as some of the other guys that I watched. But yeah, he's not a bad guy. I just he's a smart player too. I think he's pretty like spatially aware. Ends up being in the right spot. I just wanted to see him be like more physically dominant on like a rep-to-rep basis. There's just some other guys I prefer over him, like the guys we mentioned, like Donovan Jackson. I prefer Zabel. I'm about to watch Tate Ratledge too. I haven't watched enough of him. I know he's another Georgia guard that will be interesting to look at. Have you looked at Lindenberg? Lindenberg, I have his film pulled up. I literally was just starting to watch it. So he's a guy that I have 3 games on him. So I will know a lot about Lindenberg next time because he was literally the next guy in the queue. But I think his film like just got like posted. So we'll have a lot to see of him. Yeah, that's why I love guys who are longer and like when you find a tall, longer corner that's fluid, I really like those guys. Like I like Thomas too, the Florida State corner. If you want like a press man corner in this class, you want the Thomas kid from Florida State. His brother plays in the NFL for the Cowboys, I believe. Safety, he's a safety, but long. Another guy that's a pretty good athlete, really good recovery speed. If you really want a guy like that in the class, those are some of the corners I like. I don't love the corner class, but after the top guys, I feel like Cone, Parrish, Thomas, those are some guys that I like. Any corners or safeties? Yeah, I think Parrish could fly up. Cone also from the Senior Bowl. I talked about Jonas Sinker, the Virginia safety. I think he's underrated right now. I haven't seen a lot of talk about him. I could see him going up some boards. What do you think of moving back and getting a good O-line picks? Yeah, I mean, I'm not against it. I've always been a big trade back guy because I love having a lot of draft picks. Like, so if you get good value in a trade back, it's not the worst thing in the world because I do think there would probably be better value at offensive line because I think at 13, the value of the offensive line for the most part isn't that good. But it just depends. Like, it always takes 2 to tango. Like I've said, it's just. But if it's possible, I'm not definitely would be for it. Let's pull up a first mock draft actually. This is Kyper's mock. Mel Kyper. So he had Cam Ward going first overall. We'll be interested to see if this happens because I remember seeing reports saying they're going to take, if there's a generational talent, they're going to take it. So that means like they would take either Hunter or Carter, I guess. But QB's, let's see if the Titans think he's their franchise or do they wait? Because it is the first year as a GM. Sometimes they feel like they can wait a year with their new GM. Hunter second, then QB third. Carter. I do think Hunter and Carter will probably be the first 2 non-QBs off the board. And then Graham and McMillan, probably the next 2. That's kind of how I see it going. They have Jets taking Michael Williams. Not a fan, honestly. Not a fan of Michael. Walker at 8. I do think Jalen Walker is the guy that's in play for the Dolphins at 13 if he's there. Very intriguing player. Will Johnson, another good corner. Will Campbell's off the board. Kelvin Banks off the board. I know people will be disappointed that. Probably the top 2 offensive linemen. I think I actually prefer Campbell for the Dolphins right now. The more I've seen of Banks, I've actually become a little... Like, I don't dislike Banks, but actually I'm not as high, I feel like, as my first watch. There's just too many, like, I think some balance issues that I have with some of the stuff that he does that makes me not as high on him for the Dolphins. Burden goes 12. And they have the Dolphins taking... It's Mel Kiper, so he has the Dolphins taking Malachi Starks, which... I think is a possibility when you look at the Dolphins. They literally don't have any safeties. Obviously, it depends how free agency plays out, but I always like to see who goes right after too. But Malachi Starks, versatile. He, as it says, lining up a traditional safety over the slot. Yeah, both free agents. But they have Warren going right after. These are guys who would all be in play. Burden went 12. Stewart went 15. Another guy that I think could be a possibility, but not my ideal pick. Booker went 16, Campbell 17, Mbao went 18. He's a guy that I think is potentially in play. I think this is high for the South Carolina safety. Ashton Jeanty went 20. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I definitely don't want to see Travis Hunter in New England. That would be tough. Honestly, I don't. I think Abdul Carter's like, out of any players in this class, I think Carter and Hunter would be like the most surprising players falling to 13. Edge is a premium position, and he's like pretty clearly the best edge in the class, in my opinion. So I just don't see that happening. See, I feel like Javon's going to get the bag, so I don't think Holland will get re-signed. But it's possible. Definitely possible. He's like the only really big name free agent the Dolphins have. I just don't think the Dolphins have the cap space, and for what he's going to get paid, they might have to let that go. Carter and Hunter would be the most surprising players in this class, dropping to 13, I think. Carter, Hunter, and then after that, like Graham, maybe. That wouldn't be impossible, but it would be pretty surprising. I also watched some QBs, by the way. I know people wanted to hear about QBs a little bit. We'll check out some more mock drafts in a second. I would not take any quarterbacks in the first 2 days. I don't think any of them will be worth it. I think the only QBs in this class that should really go first round right now are Ward and Sanders. After that, none of them should. I don't think any of them should even go second round, but I think Milroe and Dart will get pushed up, so I wouldn't take them. But day 3, if you want to take a quarterback, here are the quarterbacks I would take. Like, I really watched them, and I think these are the guys that are actually not bad day 3 people. Dylan Gabriel, Kyle McCord, Will Howard, and then I watched a little bit of Max Brosmer, the Minnesota quarterback. He's had like some knee injuries, but that guy has some of the best anticipation and timing I saw in the class. Mechanically sound. Like, he did all this stuff really well that like Tua does really well. Those are like his strengths. So like if he's late day 3, I wouldn't mind taking a look at him. But I watched Gabriel from Oregon, and just, I know people like last year were comparing Penix to Tua because they're both lefties, but they couldn't be any more different. Gabriel is actually someone that plays like Tua. And I think the reason is like, one of the offense, they do a lot of the play action RPO stuff. He can do that. Like they run, I make a video on Gabriel. Like they run that exact RPO, like the seam rail slide RPO we run so much. The Oregon runs that too, and Gabriel's really good at it. Like he has really good ball handling. That's something I think goes underrated when Tua comes out of the game. Like a lot of like the quick stuff, the ball handling, all of those like little things that people go kind of unnoticed. The backups just can't do it to that level. And I think that's something Gabriel's really good at too. Also, he's pretty athletic too. So like you could get a little boost there if he was to play. Like he's a little more athletic. But same kind of issues too. Like he's on the smaller side. He doesn't have the strongest arm. I think one area he definitely would struggle is he kind of only plays with one velocity. One thing Tua does really well, and it's such a big part of the offense, is touch over the middle of the field. Gabriel does not have the best touch, so that's something he would have to work on. But I think that was like the one thing I saw that'd be like, ooh, that doesn't fit that well for Gabriel. But they are similar types of like, Gabriel has an injury history. He's smaller, athletic, but like day 3, you want to back up, not bad. Same with Kyle McCord. He's another guy that I think is like one of the more NFL ready quarterbacks, but like has limited tools. Like he's not the strongest arm, not the most athletic, but he can do some of the RPO stuff. He's a smart player. He's like ran an NFL level concepts that the Dolphins ran. But he has a good feel for the game, like played with pretty good anticipation, accuracy. He's a Syracuse quarterback. He's transferred from Ohio State. He looked better this year than he ever had. But those are some day 3 guys that like have some decent traits. Same with Will Howard from Ohio State. Obviously, they just won the championship. But he shows the ability to go through progression, work some middle of the field stuff. I think he's like a career backup type with like, but he's got good size to him and he's got some rushing ability. He's not the biggest, like the greatest athlete, but there's some like rushing ability there. Like I think teams like Riley Leonard is not an NFL quarterback. But if the team, someone takes him from Notre Dame just to be like a short yardage quarterback, I think that some people like how Taysom Hill is used for the Saints. I think teams are going to start drafting players like that just to have as like your third quarterback on the roster that doesn't really play actual quarterback. They just come in to either run like QB sneaks or like you snap them the ball and, you know, let them go to work on QB power, stuff like that. But yeah. Quinn Ewers? Yeah, no thanks. We need to move away from getting a quarterback with anticipation. We need a strong arm quarterback because that's the limitations with Tua. He's over. Personally, I think arm strength is the most overrated trait a quarterback can have. Obviously, you need to have a base level of it. But why would you want to move away? Why would you want to move away from anticipation? That doesn't make any sense to me. Now, if you want a quarterback with a stronger arm that also has anticipation, that would make sense. But like, I don't think anticipation is the problem with the Dolphins offense at all. And I understand wanting to get a developmental quarterback in this class. To like, I would be totally for that if you get a guy that has like the traits. It's just in this class, there's really not any developmental quarterbacks that you're going to get on day 3. The only ones that are like developmental quarterbacks that have traits are like Jalen Milroe and Jackson Dart, and those guys will probably go round 2, potentially round 1. So like if we were in a position, or like if there was guys in this class that were like traits quarterbacks, yeah, throw a dart at them, but they're not really in this class. So I'd rather just take someone that would fit the scheme to be a backup. The reason I'm saying is basing off what Kyle Shanahan, there's a limitation on what you can do with these quarterbacks in terms of playbook. I mean, every quarterback has their limitations. There's definitely like some limitations to his game, but also he helps you open up the playbook in other ways. Like there's certain quarterbacks that limit the playbook that have a strong arm because they can't do a lot of those quick things, or they can't work the middle of the field, so that takes away that part of the playbook. Like something like Russell Wilson, right? Russell Wilson was always a good player for Seattle, but Russell Wilson is a deep ball, throw the moon ball down the field type of quarterback that was athletic. But his playbook was limited because he could not throw to the middle of the field. He could not throw with anticipation. So it depends. Like, unless you find a quarterback that is elite, that has no limitations, then yeah, you go for that. It's just that we're not in the position, at least this year, to find a player like that. So in some way or another, the playbook would be limited, no matter who the quarterback is. So you don't think Howard can develop? No, I think Howard can develop. I just don't. He's not like an elite tools quarterback develop. Like, yeah, he's got the size, but I don't think he has like elite arm strength or like athleticism where to like he develops into like this stud. I could see Howard being like, to me, I have Howard as like a career backup. And then if he does develop, I could see him being maybe like a low end starter, but I don't think Howard's the type of guy that I think develops into like a great player in the NFL. Like, he doesn't have like those elite traits. Not, I mean, it's early, Anthony, so I haven't seen every quarterback, but from what I've seen so far, there hasn't really been any quarterback like that at least that I will think will be there on day, like later in the draft. Now, if you want to take a chance on Milroe in like round 2 or something, go for it. Personally, I think that would probably just be a waste of a pick. I would just wait till next year in 2026 to take the chance. But who knows? Maybe it would work out and be better than expected. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I feel like there is some recency bias with the whole like Tua, like obviously he doesn't have the strongest arm, but he's always been able to push the ball down the field because of his anticipation. It's just this past year, with the Dolphins not having a running game and not having trust in the offensive line, they did not push the ball down the field as much, and teams were playing a lot of cover 2, obviously, to take away some of the receivers. But like, we've seen it. There was a year where he was pushing the ball down the field more than anyone and doing it well. Like, as long as he's able to throw with good timing. I think when he's late, yes, that's when those limitations kind of come into play. Ward, Sanders, Milroe, and Dart will all go first round. Yeah. I mean, if it's like last year, for sure they would go first round. It's just not every draft is like that. Like, sometimes there's drafts where like, because I think this draft is really the only, like, what year was that? The year that had like Pickett in them, you know? Pickett and that draft, I think only one QB went first round, and it was Pickett, and he went like in the 20s. I think this class is only like slightly better than that class. So like, I do think there's a world where only like 2 of them go. Ashton, Genty, and Milroe second round. Are you saying Genty in the first and Milroe in the second? Personally, I don't think that's the best thing for what this team needs if they want to be competitive next year. But I think it was like, was it 2019? I don't think it's 2019. I think it was like, because Pickett was not before Tua, and Tua was 2020. I think they were 2022 was the bad QB year, 2022. Because 2021, it was Lawrence and them. I think it was 2022 was the Pickett year, if I had to guess. What are your opinions on Dart? Do you think he fits McDaniel's scheme? Personally, I have a third round grade on Dart. So, and I think he's going to go before that. So I'm not unless he fell there, I wouldn't take him. I just think he has a good arm, pretty good athlete, but he's very limited when it comes to that. Like, you want to talk about a QB that is limited or the scheme is limited. Like, man, dude, they do not run an NFL offense at all. They just run RPOs. He doesn't have to make any NFL level reads. That's like the most QB friendly scheme of all time. So he's really hard to project to the next level because their scheme does not really do anything that you would do as an NFL quarterback. So Dart's just hard to project right now, to be honest. I thought Tua actually worked the sidelines probably the best this year than he's ever done. I thought it was actually probably one of his biggest strengths this season was working the sidelines. He made a lot of like hole shot throws this year, which obviously he was able to make those throws mainly due to the anticipation. I just think if you see the offense this year compared to last, obviously Tua staying healthy is a huge part. I think it needs to be like a combination of like a mix of what they did this year and the years before. Like, it can't be as much underneath stuff. And I think the biggest way to fix that is being a little more run heavy. We've talked about it. So being able to run the ball, and we've talked about adding guards, adding a wide tight end, maybe even adding a running back that's a little more physical. I think being a more consistent running attack will help you be able to push the ball down the field more, not rely on as many screens. Because I think that's the reason they ran so many screens is they couldn't run the ball. And the screens was like an extension of that, of the running game. So I think the running game would help balance that out. Go back to more what you did towards 2023, but then have the ability with like a player like Jonnu and Achane being more involved as a receiver to have the underneath threat. That was the problem in 2023 is they could push the ball down the field. It's just they did not have any underneath sort of intermediate threat. And then in 2024, it was all just intermediate underneath work Jonnu Smith. If they can find a balance, that is exactly what the offense needs. Because bringing in Jonnu, if they had Jonnu in 2023, the offense would have been much better with like the 2023 style. With the 2024 style, they were just relying too much on that. And I think that had to do with the O-line and some of the injuries and stuff like that. I think Herbert, Herbert was the guy that was limited by scheme in college, but at the same time, I think Herbert flashed higher level traits. Like, he was a better athlete. He had a stronger arm. I thought he was more accurate consistently. And then when he showed the ability to go through reads, he did it. I don't think Dart's that level of player. I do think he could take a leap and be better than expected, but I don't think he was the level of prospect that Herbert was. Plus, like, the way Herbert was limited was more like they just like forced him to make one read. Dart's not even like Dart's not even making reads. He's literally just doing RPO play after play, which is tough. But yeah, that's kind of. I just don't like the QB class this year. It's just and even in round one, the only QB I would take really a shot on in round one is Ward. Because like, I feel like Sanders could be a solid quarterback, but like, I don't think he has like super high upside or anything. I feel like Ward's the only one that like actually has some traits to work with, but even then, he's not like a super clean prospect or anything. That's really all I got to say about the QB class. Let's go here. Let's go. This is a Tankathon mock draft. Boom. There we go. So they have Sanders going first, Carter second. Yep. Top 4. They actually had the same top 5, just in a different order. Will Johnson 6. I actually wouldn't be surprised if Will Johnson fell a little bit. But he is a good player. Campbell, McMillan, Starks, Banks, Genty, Michael Williams. So they have us taking Tyler Warren, which, as you guys know, I would be a big fan of this pick because I think it helps out fix a lot of issues that some people might have with the team. I think it helps in a lot of areas. People might not think tight end's a need, but this helps your rushing attack. It helps out your consistency. Like, why tight end was such a huge problem for the Dolphins last year when it came to run blocking. And he also just adds more of a receiving threat and a red zone option because this guy is a big body. So, like, you also need a big receiver. He also kind of fills that need a little bit for you. 6'6", 261. Some guys that went after Jalen Walker, a guy that I feel like Chris Greer will love Jalen Walker. He feels like a Jalen Walker player. I also think Anthony Weaver, if he's the defensive coordinator, which I think he will be, would love Jalen Walker. I think he would actually be quite in play. Wouldn't be surprised if he's gone. Kenneth Grant, James Pierce, Nick Scorin. I wouldn't take any of them personally at 13. I like Kenneth Grant a lot, but not quite at 13. Yeah, after this, there's not a ton. I think Ibuka, the Dolphins would be interested in, to be honest. I feel like Ibuka just feels like a player McDaniel's going to absolutely love. Let me see what you can say. Warren, yeah, Warren, favorite player. Yeah, I really like Tyler Warren's game. He's just super physical. Love his physical. And, like, the thing is, I think he can even, like, I feel like he can improve as a blocker too. Like, he has some really high-end run blocking reps, but it's not always perfect. There's, like, some consistency and I think technique issues. It's just he was so big and powerful and, like, liked to be physical that sometimes he just bullied people out there. So, like, that's the thing. I think he could get even better. I think the only reason he's not, like, top player for me is just because he's not the most athletic tight end in the world. I think he has enough athleticism to where, like, with the other traits, he'll be absolutely fine. Like, he's not a Brock Bowers level player. Like, Bowers last year was a top 3 player in that class, and probably the best tight end I've ever scouted since I've been doing this, at least. But Warren would be, like, right after him. This class is good though. Loveland's a good player. If you want a route running tight end, you get Loveland. You want some inline wide tight ends, you take Tyler Warren or Gunnar Helm or Mason Taylor from LSU. Good players. You want a player that's kind of like a Jonnu Smith type, but also can give you some more inline than Jonnu would. You take, like, that's a good player, big, productive receiver, good with the ball. Harold Fannin Jr. is a player. And there's a lot of day 3 guys that do some stuff. You want a guy that can block Jackson Haas. You want a big slot seam threat, you take Aronde Gadsden. I think he went back to school. But yeah, Terrence Ferguson, another guy from Oregon. He was used in, like, that RPO stuff. But yeah. What do you see as receiving ceiling for Warren? Like 800 yards? Yeah, I could see that. I feel like year 1, it probably depends where he goes. Like, if he was on Miami, I feel like 800 was probably more than he would get. It probably, like, I feel like Jonnu is, going to get a lot of yards. But, like, if he goes to a team where, like, he's clearly one of the top options, I could easily see him, getting 800 or even more. But I feel like sometimes tight ends take a little bit to develop to the next level. It is one of those positions, but we've seen more and more tight ends working out quickly, like Bowers, Laporta. Those guys were instant impact players. I don't know, maybe like 700. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Bowers was generational. But Warren, in my opinion, is still a first-round player in this class. What do good teams have? A good RB, tight end, one receiver, and a QB that can extend plays and run first downs. Yeah, I mean, that definitely is a way. I mean, there's multiple different ways to build your teams. I mean, some of the best teams in the NFL. I mean, the Lions just got eliminated, but they have one of the best teams in the NFL, and they did it in a different way. Good O-line, efficient quarterback, and really good running game with some good receiving tight end options. The reason they didn't make it far enough, though, is because their defense was obliterated with injuries. Like, the Lions actually ran into a problem the Dolphins did last year, is they had their defense was screwed with injuries. But yeah. But even though I don't like the Eagles are a team, I don't know. I don't think Hurts is very good as a quarterback. The Eagles are weird because I tweeted about this. I think the weakest part of the Eagles team is their quarterback and their head coach. I think everything else is like super strong. Is Colston Loveland more like a Zach Ertz type? Yeah, that's not a young Zach Ertz. But Loveland is like a Dalton Kincaid coming out type. But Loveland's a very good route runner, like a really good route runner. Did Golden go in the first? Matthew Golden? I can check. I feel like Matthew Golden is a guy that should go more in the first, to be honest. In this draft, they did not. Actually, wait, let me pull this back up. I just realized. So we took Warren at 13. Yeah, this is a 2-round mock, I think. Because I scrolled down and started seeing it. They have Cameron Williams going 33rd. To me, that's high for Cameron Williams. Wow, Membo. This to me is a crime. Armand Membo should never go below Cameron Williams, but whatever. They have Milrow in the second. They start having the guards go here. Donovan Jackson. I would have Donovan Jackson above Jonah, but Tyreek's a good player. Wyatt Millum. Emory Jones. Okay, so they have Deion Walker going to the Dolphins, which I'm pretty sure he just measured it at the Senior Bowl, and I'm pretty sure he was like 6'7", 350, which is insane. Now that's one of the boomer. That's like a boomer bust player in this draft class. They had Golden going 61. Steal. Oh, they have a round 3. I wonder if they'll have. Let's scroll down. Oh yeah, they have us with a comp pick. Sebastian Castro, the Iowa safety. Okay, that's not terrible. Interesting. I need to see more of Castro because I watched a little bit of him. I remember like him being a pretty smart, like decent player, but nothing like super standoutish. But I'll check him out again. Forgot to take. Sometimes I haven't taken notes on everyone. Luke Leshy. Are you talking about Leshy from Iowa, the tight end? I'm guessing that's who you're talking about. I think it depends, Lofi, if one guy that falls that you really like. But personally, I would just wait because I think you could still find someone of equal value because in my opinion, a lot of the offensive linemen are just second-rounded graded players anyways, and a guy that you're going to get at the back end of the first would just be another second-round graded offensive lineman, just maybe a guy that's higher on your board. So I'd rather just wait. I think the Dolphins have too many needs for them to like trade up. I feel like they need as many picks as possible because, I mean, obviously we'll see how free agency plays out, but they need, right now with free agency and the draft, they need 2 guards, a backup quarterback, a wide tight end, at least another receiver as well. Probably another running back at some point. Don't need to spend like a lot of capital on that, but maybe probably a running back. They need multiple defensive linemen. Sealer's the only one on the roster. They need an off-ball linebacker starter. They need at least 2 safeties, and they need another impact corner. Yeah, I'm going to watch more Castro because I watched Castro a while ago. And when I watched Castro, that was before I was like taking notes on prospects. So I don't have my notes written down on him. Because I watched him like during the season. So I'll have to watch Castro again because I can't remember. Yep, swing tackle we'll need. most likely. They might see Keon Smith as a swing tackle. I wouldn't be surprised. Just because Greer mentioned Keon Smith in his end of the year presser. Let's go. Let's see what CBS has. Is Keon Smith a legitimate swing? Personally, I'm not sure of like if it just depends. If you can find someone, yeah, I would try to find someone and have Keon Smith be your fourth guy, especially because he's coming off the torn ACL. But I do think in the 2023 when he played, like he actually looked pretty solid as a tackle. As a guard, no, he looked bad as a guard. As a tackle, he looked pretty solid for you. And I think in the Dolphins system, it's not that hard to play tackle, like in pass protection at least, because you're just jump setting a lot. You're not in true pass sets, so you just need someone that can make somewhat of an impact in the running game to be your swing tackle. And I think it's just probably one of those positions where the Dolphins might not feel the need that they need to think that they think they'll need to upgrade at other positions more, and somewhere you're going to have to ignore, maybe that ends up being swing tackle, who knows, and not put as much value into it. Any D tackles you like around 3 to 5? TJ Sanders would be a great pick in the second. I like Sanders. I don't know if I'd take him in the second, but he's a fun 3 tech. But yeah, I got some D tackles. Let's see. I don't know if he'll make it to round 3, but Alfred Collins, Texas. You want a 1 tech that can stop the run? I like him a lot. Here's some other guys that I really like. Darius Alexander from Toledo, I believe. Good run defender, holds his own at the point of attack. Good quickness. Just maybe some limited pass rush ability, but has some nice like power, push and pull. He's a guy that I like. Aeneas Peebles, I just made a video on him. Virginia Tech, undersized D tackle. He's like 6'1", 290, but this guy knows how to get after it, man. He's explosive, very good first step, nasty like spin move. He has a lot of moves in his bag. Like he'll cross your face with quickness. He'll hit you with a chop. And he, like, for a guy that's undersized, I think plays the run pretty well for his size. I like him a lot. I think another guy that's also an underrated, like, smaller pass rusher 3 tech type, or Omar Norman Lott, Tennessee kid. Those are some interesting D lineman names. Same with like a Ty Robinson, I believe, from Nebraska. Pretty versatile, nice first step, has some length to him. The D tackle class is pretty good. One of the better parts of the class. Have you looked back at your draft prospects from last year and tracked down how they have done? Let me see. I can look at my list from last year. Wait, let me see if I have it. Hold on. No. Where's my 2024 list? Oh, shoot, okay. Let's see. Obviously, I'd have to just look, because I forgot I made all of these red because I was keeping track of when they were drafted. Not some of my, like, guys, but... I feel like last year, for the most part, it was pretty good, because a lot of the guys I wanted, like Brian Thomas Jr., Graham that went to Buccaneers for the center, he did really well. But I'd have to look it up to see exactly how they're doing. But I think for the most part, the guys I liked were pretty productive in year 1. But there's probably some names that I am just forgetting. I'll definitely check that out. Yeah, Norman Lott. The only problem with Norman Lott is, like, I mean, he's undersized, but, like, bro, he averaged, like, 17 snaps a game, which was crazy. Yeah, I like Lott and Peebles are kind of, like, in that same thing. Like, undersized D tackles that, like, know how to rush the passer. Yeah, there's some good special teams players in this class. I mean, some of the guys that are really good special teams players, will probably go earlier than the 7th, but yeah. I mean, 7th, you're just throwing darts at players the scouts like. Usually that's where like the scout, they go to school and be like, hey, this is a guy I loved. Like last year was Taj Washington. Obviously he got injured, so we don't know how that's going to work out, but yeah. Busy. Let's go over. This is a CBS mock, so how do I pause you? Let's see. Okay, so they got Sanders going 1. Okay, they have the Raiders rating up for sure. Cam Ward going 2. So they just have QB going top 3. Personally, I don't think that's going to happen in this draft, but anything's possible. Hunter going to the Patriots. Carter, Campbell, McMillan, Burden, Genty. James Pierce at 11, Tyler Warren. Okay, so they have us taking Starks as well. And Starks is a player that, like, obviously he fits the safety role, but I also think he's a guy that can, like, be a matchup guy in man-to-man coverage, which is always a big help. That just means they're playing more than safety. He can play as, like, a big nickel for you and take away some tight ends and certain receivers as well. But these are, like, I mean, these are all my guys right here. Warren, Starks, Egbuka, going back-to-back. Jalen Walker, another guy that I think is there. Wow, they had Mason Graham fall to 16. If Mason Graham's on the board, the Dolphins should be taking Mason Graham at 13. They had Kenneth Grant, both of the Michigan guys, going back-to-back. Interesting. Is this just one round? Oh, wow, they have Schwessinger going 29th overall. Interesting. Mike Green's a guy I like a lot. They also had Golden going 32. Wow, Golden would actually be so good in Kansas City. Some of these mocks are kind of crazy. Yeah, CBS going a little wild there. Let's see. This point in the probably would take at 13. Honestly, it depends who's there, but like I just feel like Tyler Warren is like a safe bet for me, at least. If Banks and Campbell are off the board. Yeah. I don't know. Honestly, I'm almost at the point where like I think I would take like Warren and Starks and that type of people over Banks. Like I know people want O-line. It's just I feel like I'm not liking Banks as much as I used to. Oh, let me go there. But like he obviously wouldn't be a bad pick. I mean, yeah, you want to take best player available, but you want them to relatively fit the scheme. Like they're not going to draft someone that just doesn't fit the scheme at all, you know? But there is definitely a decent amount of names that I wouldn't be mad about at 13. But there are some that I think the Dolphins could take that I would not like. But they also could technically trade up or down. Who knows what the Dolphins are thinking this year. Greer is in a spot where he might need to go crazy. Let's see. Let's see what SI's got. Sports Illustrated. See if there's anything different, or are they just... Is everyone going to just give us the same picks? They have Ward going to Tennessee, Carter second, Shitter, McMillan, Hunter, Will Johnson, okay, Graham, Walker, Burden, Will Campbell at 10. That makes sense. The Bears will probably take O-line. Michael Williams. I hope Michael Williams goes before the Dolphins pick because I really do not want Michael Williams. Genty to the Cowboys and Starks again. Okay. Seems like everyone's giving us Starks because if you do, I guess if you look at our roster right now, we literally don't have any safeties. And as they all say, Javon Holland entering free agency. And then Warren goes to the Colts. Yeah, Warren is a guy that I could definitely see going right after the Dolphins to the Colts. I feel like this is like a mock we already saw. I feel like it looks exactly like a mock we already saw. Simmons is a name I need Greer to avoid, please. What Simmons are you talking about? Josh Simmons? Ohio State? Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Dolphins... I think they need a tackle that can play guard. I don't think Simmons can play guard. But to be fair, Simmons, and he's coming off the knee injury. But if you just go based off film alone, Simmons is probably the best offensive lineman in the class. But I wouldn't take him. Because he's tackle only. Franchise Holland, I would let Holland walk, personally. Or any other, let's see. What is this? I'm just scrolling through. Let's see what you got here. Drafttek. I'm just looking up mock drafts. Yep. Usual stuff. They have Banks going 4. It's a little high. Wow, they have Starks going 13. Wow. Dude, everyone has us taking Starks. They have Maxwell Hairston going 14th? I have not seen Hairston this high. And I like Hairston, but not as a first rounder. That's kind of crazy. Let's see what they got for round 2 to 3. Okay. Trey Harris, Ayemi Noor. Interesting. Tyler Booker. Okay, I mean, yeah. If you take Starks and you get Booker at 48, I don't think Booker will be here, but hey, I'm not mad about that. See what they got for us down low. Albert Collins still there. Scatterbo at the start of the 3rd. Dart just went in the 3rd. Gunnar Helm. Oh, and they have us with 2 comp picks. Even though I think we're only going to have 1, but they have us with TJ Sanders. I haven't watched Caldwell, so I don't know. But Sanders in the 3rd ain't bad. I can't believe they had Hairston going 14th. Kind of crazy. How do I back out of this? Okay. Josh Connerly. Connerly's a good player too, but he's another the guy that's like, I actually think he's a good like fit in McDaniel's scheme, but he's a tackle only type of player. Good athlete, long, pretty good in pass protection actually, but can be a little bit raw as well. Please don't take Simmons, he's hurt. Yeah. I mean, it just depends with the hurt guys, where they go, where they fall. And also, like, sometimes, like, players are hurt coming into the draft, and then they go to the NFL and they're not hurt. They just don't get hurt. Or sometimes it sticks with them. And then sometimes the guy that never gets injured in college, you draft him, and then they become a hurt guy in the NFL. Sometimes it's something you can't predict. One time we passed on a hurt Simmons before, and he ended up being... He's a top 2 defensive tackle in the league. And has been for many years. Does Miami need to upgrade their scouting department? I mean, it's tough to say. I'm not in the room, so I don't know exactly what the decisions are. It could be just one person. But actually, I mean, to be fair, like, the scouting department in 2023 and 2022, they just had no picks. And I'm sure Greer was like, okay, I got to make, like, it was all Greer decisions because he had so very few picks. But last year, if you listened to like the stuff that was happening like behind the scenes, like them talking on the phone, and like we heard from reports like Taj Washington, that type, and like Patrick McMorris, those were guys the scouts wanted. Malik Washington was a guy the scouts wanted, and McDaniel wanted. I think the same thing with Mohamed Kamara. So like I think the day 3 guys were like a lot of the scouting department guys and McDaniel, and then day 1 and day 2 were like Greer going with Chop and Patrick Paul. You did a review on Jack Besh. What do you think of their other wide receiver, Savion Williams? Yeah, Savion is an interesting prospect. I I'm not as high on him as I've seen some other people. I like Besh more personally, but Savion is a fun player, very versatile. He's 6'5", 225, and honestly, he's more of a running back than he is a receiver. Like, they play him at Wildcat quarterback. He's very good with the ball in his hands. And I'm sure if he was with McDaniel, he could find some fun ways to use him and get him the ball schemed up. But that's like kind of my problem with him as well, is I think he's a player that you're just going to scheme up touches. I think he struggles as like doing regular receiver stuff, like running routes with consistency. He has a lot of drops as well. So those types of things maybe drop you down the board a little bit. But he is a fun player. I think if he ends up in the right system with the right team, he'll be fine. But he's also one that, like, if some team drafts him with an offensive coordinator that doesn't know what he's doing, that I could see him being like a bust. Whoever drafts Scatterbo will be very happy. He's a blue chip. Blue chip is great. Blue chip is like, there's only usually like, a few blue chip players in every class. Scatterbo is a good, I like Scatterbo, but blue chip is like Ashton Genty's blue chip. And that's like, there's only one blue chip running back. Like, blue chip in this class is like Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Ashton Genty. And then maybe you could argue a couple other people. Ashton Genty, would you look at him at 13? Honestly, I think he has to be considered. I know people don't want running back, but like, as I've said, I'm a best player available person, and usually I wouldn't take running back first round. But I think the Dolphins, as we talked about, I think one of their biggest issues last year is they couldn't run the ball. And obviously it needs to see how free agency plays out. But if you kind of fix the O-line in free agency and you still have more picks, like there's more picks to use. You still have seconds, thirds, who knows, maybe you trade away Tyreek, you have another second. Also, Achane, we saw what Achane could do as a receiver last year. If Achane moved to more of a receiver type role, still playing some running back, but if you took Genty, in a lot of the best teams in the NFL right now, the Eagles, when they added Saquon, the Ravens, when they added Derrick Henry, like they added guys who like elevated their offense. Like, I think it has to be in consideration. A guy that could really take the load. And I think Genty is one of those guys, like, if he's there at 13, he's probably the best player available on the board. So I think he's in play. Mason Graham, yeah. He's one of the other guys that I would say potential blue chip. But yeah, Genty, I think you got to consider it. Especially in this draft class. Usually, I was saying, I usually wouldn't take running back that early. But this draft class, I feel like, is not that strong at the top. So, like, if you're at 13 and all your first-round players are gone except Genty, and Genty's, like, really high, like, probably going to be really highly rated, I wouldn't be mad if they just took Genty or traded down. But I don't like that Genty is so short. I actually don't have a problem with short running backs as long as they have, like, the weight put on to, like, match it. Because actually, I think being short actually helps a lot of running backs because it gives you, like, a natural leverage advantage. Actually helps them, like, break tackles. As long as you're not, like, too short. I mean, 5'9" to me is fine. Like, once you go below 5'9", you're usually in trouble. But, like, he's got the weight put on. And if you got the weight with the height and it doesn't really affect your athleticism, which I first think Genty, it doesn't. Like, I think he's still a good athlete. Like, he just bounces off people. So height for me for running back isn't the biggest deal. As long as you're not, like, super, super short. Like, you're not, 5'5", 5'6". But even then, some of those guys work out. Genty or Warren? I would probably go Warren. But I really like Warren. And even though I would probably have, technically, like, I've been saying, I'm a big best player available person. Even though I'd probably have Genty graded a little bit higher on my big board. There are certain positions that will slightly give up. So I'm like, I'm best player available with my position and need in mind a little bit. So, like, if it's close enough, I'm going to take the bigger position of need that I think will help just be more of an impact right away. But Genty is one of the guys that I think would impact the Dolphins a lot instantly. It also would allow Achane to be more of a receiver, which he looked really good at a receiver role this year, like surprisingly good. And it would I feel like Genty would give your offense a new identity, especially if you were to move on from what's it called? If you were to move on from Tyreek. Michael, I haven't watched Condre yet. I have him listed down, but I just don't have Cincinnati film yet, so but I will be watching him when I get a chance. He's one of the guys that's listed. I've seen clips of him. He seems interesting, but I haven't seen enough to know. It seems like the RBs are starting to change a little bit of a narrative because we've seen what Jahmyr Gibbs did for the Lions. Bijan's a very good player for the Falcons. It's not that bad to take one in the first round. But also, this is a class where if you do need a running back, like there's some pretty, like this is a pretty deep running back class. Like Caleb Johnson and Hampton in the second, Travion Henderson as well. There's some other guys that I like. A guy that I don't think is necessarily the best player for the Dolphins, but is a good player is Devin Neal from Kansas. That guy's just going to be a good running back at the next level. But yeah, that's sort of. Is there any other players? Oh, yeah, I just watched some David Walker. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. Central Arkansas. But that guy has like crazy production and stats. He's a guy you guys should check out if you haven't heard of him. David Walker. He played for Central Arkansas. They play on like a purplish field. Like it's like half purple or something. But that guy dominated, man. Like that guy was a really good pass rusher. He's going to be at the Senior Bowl. So that's a name to just keep an eye on. He's an edge defender. Just wanted to throw some names out there if you guys haven't heard or seen of them yet. But yeah. See if there's any other. Nope. Okay. Not what I was looking for. Let's see. Okay, let me check this. See if there's any other mock drafts. Nope. 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 Okay, let's see what Fox Sports says. See what Fox has to offer. Okay. Yep. Quarterback. Classic. Oh, they had Ursary going 11. Banks went 10. Yep. So O-lineman. Burden at 12. Let me guess. Is it going to be Starks? No. Oh, they had us going Derek Harmon. Okay. I do think D tackle is a need, but I just don't think any of the D tackles after Graham is worth it at 13. And if they were to take a D tackle, I think I would prefer Kenneth Grant from Michigan as well. Harmon to me is more of a second round player, so because like I would take Warren at 14 who went after. I would take Walker. I would had Starks going 20. I would take Starks. I would take Ibuka over him as well. I would take Genty who went 22 over him. I would even take like Siobhan Ravel, Josh Simmons over him. Interesting. Jahdae Barron as well. These are two guys I really like. Jahdae Barron and Matthew Golden. Two guys I'm super high on. And I have first round grades on, so nice to see them going first round. Interesting. Boom. Okay. Genty is special, but I see many RBs that all others who would do well in McMahon. Yeah. Oh, I like Woody Marks too. I'm just saying, if I don't mind it, I wouldn't have done it in the past, but I think when you look at the Dolphins' issues last year, I do think the Dolphins having a new identity with like a back that would be like a full-on like workhorse that you can rely on, sort of like what McCaffrey did with the Niners when he was healthy in the past years. Like having that with Genty, like having that sort of identity would help the Dolphins, because even if Tua went down, you would still have your identity at running back. That's why I've kind of come around on the whole taking a stud running back in the first, if that's, especially as I've said, like this draft class, I don't think it's the strongest at the top. So taking Genty at 13, I'm not going to be mad about. I need a true Mike. Like, yeah, I talked about Stutzman earlier. But yeah, Stutzman, like, he's like a prototypical guy. He's got good size, good athleticism. I really like his ability in coverage. I just don't like his ability versus the run. I think he has some poor gap discipline. His processing's inconsistent. And I don't think he's like the best at the point of attack either. Like, I think he has like below average like play strength and ability to stack and shed. So to me, if he was like third round or later, I would be down for it. But I wouldn't take him in on date or round 2. I prefer some other guys over him. Like, I think Chris Paul Jr., Carson Schwessinger, Jahad Campbell, those guys like as off balls, and Jalen Walker, obviously. And I still need to see more of the class. I haven't seen a ton of linebackers yet, to be honest. I've only seen like a handful. But I don't think the class overall is that good. That's why, like, I feel like if there's one position that I thought about, like, hey, they should just go after one in free agency to pair with Jordan Brooks, it's off-ball linebacker. Yeah, I do like Marks though, Michael. Woody Marks is fun, very elusive back. Wouldn't mind him. I just think if they do add a back, they probably should add more of like a, like even in the later rounds, they should add someone who's a little, because Woody Marks is more of like an elusive, good workout in space. He's got good vision, stuff like that. But I think they probably need to add someone with a little more size, just because I feel like that's what the room's lacking. Even though I think Marks is a good player. What are your best case scenario? To me, like a best case scenario. I think I would really like if they went like Warren at 13. Because there's a few different things that could happen at 13, but say they get Warren at 13, and then someone like Donovan Jackson fell to their second pick. To me, that would be like a really, like, one really good value in the second round. Jackson, I don't think is that much below some of the first round guys. That's why I would prefer that, because I think Warren is above some of the guys you maybe get in second round at tight end. But that would be like really good because it helps build your identity. You fill 2 huge needs and just makes you more physical up front. So like something like that. It could go in the opposite direction too. You could get like an offensive lineman at 13 like Campbell or something. And then the second you got, I just don't love the tight ends as much at the second because I would like Hellman like the third. Maybe you got like a safety like Watts or something. What round do you see Deion Walker, D tackle going? Dude, Walker is the toughest one to project in this class because I'm just going to say second because that's where What's-His-Face went last year. Even though they're different players, but they have like, what's his name? He's on the Titans and he played for Texas. I'm forgetting his name, but he's really good. But like he had some problems with like being overweight or maybe not loving football. Those were like questions about him. I think Walker's like huge, but like has problems on the film where like he clearly gives up on plays. I think he probably just goes second round somewhere, if I had to guess. Honestly, the greatest disparity is probably like it's not even rounds. I would say after like the top like 10-ish picks, basically after like the first round graded players to the second round might be where the biggest sort of like jump off is. Because after that, I actually think like there's a decent amount of depth in the class for like rounds 2 to 4. Maybe some fall off after that from like 4 to 5, 5 to 6 types of situation. But like there's a pretty big fall off, I think, after like the first round graded players. And most people have like 10 to 15 graded first round players in this class. Yeah, Tavondre Sweat, thank you. That's what I was thinking of. But I mean, they're very different players because Sweat is more of like hold your own at the point of attack, one tech, while Walker is more of like the penetrating type, makes him play with his athleticism. But they had some like similar like problems with like, you know, giving up on plays in college. So I think it just depends on like how he interviews. you expect any contribution from Grayson Murphy or Mo Kamara? It's tough to say with Murphy, obviously, because he missed the whole year and he was a UDFA. I do think they're going to try to get some work out of Kamara. Now, I know people will be like, here's the thing. If you have a 5th round pick or later and they just make your roster for a few years, that's actually not that bad. Usually, a lot of 5th round players don't even end up making some of them don't make initial rosters, and a lot of them end up getting cut later on. So if Kamara sticks around, and I do think like he could see some work, I'm hoping he does too, but it probably just depends on like injuries and stuff. Like if edge room stays pretty healthy, he probably won't see much. Yeah, Walker Stanova. What's your best realistic combo? Okay, realistic. I would say I'm just gonna go Warren again because I actually do think Warren is very realistic at 13. Like I think he'll probably be there, and it's one of the better options in my opinion. Him or Starks. That's like non-offensive linemen. And then in round 2, what's more realistic? Because I don't think Donovan Jackson's the most realistic pick. Who do I got listed here? Let's go. I would say like maybe Marcus Bowe, the Purdue kid, or maybe Gray Zabel. Those are more realistic options if you go offensive line. Yeah, that's probably what I would say. And then round 3, you would go like, who falls? Do you maybe get Andrew Mukaba, who I know you love, Dundee. Mukaba, I really like him as a round 3 option. Maybe Bahal Cone, the Western Michigan corner. You could go any position by then. Maybe some D tackles fall to you. Aeneas Peebles, because it's a late round 3 pick. It's the problem. But also, I think the Dolphins have so many needs. They can go to. I wouldn't be surprised if they took fucking. It could be receiver, tight end, offensive line, D tackle. They could even go edge, linebacker. That sort of Jalen Walker pick at 13 wouldn't surprise me. They could go safety. They could even go corner at 13. That wouldn't surprise me. So many positions wouldn't surprise me at 13. And then what happens there kind of just changes the rest of the outcome. Yeah, Warren and Millam, Scotty, that's a good shout. That's a pretty realistic and not a bad way to go. You should put your show in subscribers only mode to increase your footprint. I wouldn't even know how to do that, Dougie Fresh. But maybe I'm gonna look into it. Will Penn State safety make it to 98? It's possible, but I think Winston will be gone by then. I think Winston, even though he's coming off the injury, I think he's got too much like. I feel like there's too many traits that scouts will like that he'll go higher than that. Like I think he's a round 2 guy. He could go round 3, but I don't know if we have a late round 3. That's the problem because it's a comp pick. Yeah, it's always. I mean, it's tough to say the best outcome yet because I will have a better answer once free agency happens because free agency changes a lot of things. I do kind of want to take a receiver in this class because I really like some of the receivers. Maybe they go receiver in round 3. Maybe they could get like a Jalen Royals. I really like Jalen Royals from Utah State. Or they get like Jack Besh. Jack Besh, one of my guys. Because that wouldn't be bad value at that point. And I think once you get past like, because I'm always about just taking best player available, especially once you get to like a late round 3 and then you get to day 3, like round 4, round 5. I think you're less worrying about positions because at that point, like you're really just trying to find the best value. In the early rounds, you're thinking best player available and also considering position because those will be like instant impact players. More so after that is like guys that will be impacts down the line. And then you're going to need impact positions at every player down the line. Some are just more immediate right now. Yeah, Andrew Mukaba. That's what I was saying at 98. He's a guy that I like. I really like Mukaba in this class. He would be, I think if you got him around 3, I wouldn't be surprised if he was a starting safety for you like right away. Yeah, Taj is another name. I just think when we look at the receiver room, I would like to add a little bit of size to it. And someone that could be like a contributor early on. Doesn't need to be like a main contributor, but someone goes out there and contributes. But I do like Taj. I hope he gets a shot at least in camp. Big score and edge is not only supposed to bend, but also has great length. Yeah, I mean, I just don't like scoring at 13, and I think he's going to be going some point after that in between our two picks. I actually think the Dolphins will like the other Texas A&M edge more because that guy's like a freak. I mean, that guy's also like really good size and like an insane athlete. But I don't know. I don't think they'll go after either edge. Yeah. I'm always BPA, but like, especially after like on day 3, you just go full BPA. You literally just take whoever is the best player on your board. You don't even think about position, I think. And then round 1 and 2, you also go BPA, but you there's slight considerations in positions. Like if it's close, you lean a position that's more premium or a bigger need if it's close. James Pierce, Tennessee. Yeah, I have a lot of those edge defenders. I have like the only edge defender I have with a first round grade is Abdul Carter, and he's at the top of the class. Everyone else I'm gonna have second round grades on, but those are guys who I think will go first round. Just because it's the nature, like there's only a handful of first round grades, like I've mentioned, 13 to 16, something like that. James Pierce, but he's a very bendy, explosive pass rusher. Very long too, and I think he plays with better power than expected. Like he's not that bad of a run defender. I just think I don't think the Dolphins need Pierce though, because I feel like Phillips and Chop are more in the Pierce mold of players when it comes to like being bendy, explosive pass rushers. And that's kind of what Pierce is. That's why I was saying they're going to look more for like the long, physical, powerful ones like Stewart. I also really like Mike Green, the Marshall pass rusher. He's very good too. But he's another guy that I don't think Miami should be interested in, but he's a guy that should go first round and go to someone that likes him. Like, I wouldn't be surprised, like Mykel Williams, I've talked about it. I don't want Mykel Williams from Georgia, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's at 13 and that's a guy Chris Greer likes a lot. Because it feels like a Greer guy. Also, that was a guy I feel like Baltimore usually would throw, a shot at, a guy that's long, lengthy, athletic. Maybe that's not the best, but not for me. After last year, free agency, good vets cost us more. We not considered a contender now. Yeah, I mean, that plays into it, I'm sure, for some, but also I think some people just want to come to Miami because, one, we are like, aren't the Dolphins like the highest graded facility? So like it's a nice place to play. Also, there's no state taxes, which is another bonus. So I think it will still be a pretty, I think, big free agent destination. But yeah, I'll say this. The Dolphins are not, like, they have to be really good this offseason. And last offseason, if you really look at it, they were pretty good last offseason. They had a lot of contributors from free agency and the draft. This year, the Dolphins are over the cap. They are losing some of the most like contributors, like percentage-wise. If you look at it, like they're like 41%, which is the top 5 lost contributors, and they're over the cap. And it's not like they can make cap space, but it's not like they can make like an insane amount. So like they're gonna have to be doing what they did last season. But I think the problem last season wasn't the talent they added; it was that the positions that they ignored that hurt the Dolphins. And then there are also some other things that play into it, like some injuries that happened that obviously didn't help. But if they can add the same level of talent they did last year, but build the team the right way, more from the trenches out, that will be big. And they have more draft picks this year, which helps too, potentially. But free agency last year, they have to be just as good as they were last year this year, but at different positions. Specifically guard, D-tackle, safety, which have been positions they've kind of ignored in the past. Is Jared Wilson a center only? I believe so, Edward. I need to see more of him, but I'm pretty sure there is I'm pretty sure from what I've seen, he's a center only guy. If Greer, yeah, I'm not saying Greer will draft Mykel. I'm just saying Mykel is a guy that I feel like he will like. Yeah, I think that's all. Yeah, James Daniels. I've seen a lot of like Will Fries, James Daniels, Will Hernandez. There's the free agent guard class isn't that bad. I saw people posting about it. Let me see. I've been seeing people post about the free agent guard class. Just trying to look through some names that I've seen so far. There's also Mekhi Becton, but I think Becton will re-sign with the Eagles, if I had to guess. Patrick McCarry, yeah. He's from the Ravens. I actually played Patrick McCarry. He plays for the Ravens. I think he played tackle and guard, but he's a better guard than tackle. He's not like the best free agent option, but I did play against him in high school. I actually didn't know that until I looked it up. I'm like, oh yeah, we were in the exact same class, and he went to the school that I played against. Because I knew I played against like Michael Pittman and stuff like that. And I remember the team he was on had like some big offensive linemen that were going to like colleges and stuff. But I did play against him in high school, so I might have to sign him. Yeah, I was always a big AVG guy. I was on the Andrew Van Ginkel train for a long time, literally since he was a rookie making plays. And then like the last year he had with Miami was like almost like his breakout year as a pass rusher, because he was always a good player. He's always making impact special teams play. He was always like somehow getting the ball in his hands. He was always good versus the run. But then last year he just like broke out as a pass rusher. So I can't believe they let him go for that cheap. But I don't know. Maybe he just wasn't a scheme fit, and that's why they let him go. Even though for that price, unless he was getting like way more, I don't think they should have let him go. That was like I think one mistake last year in free agency that they really made. That was like a bad one, because everyone has like their misses, but that was like the big miss, I think. Yeah, the guard free agent market. That's why I don't think the Dolphins need to force a guard in round one. You know, because I think they're going to sign one of those guards. They have to. If they don't, and I'm sure they'll re-sign some guys too. I'm sure they'll probably try to re-sign like Isaiah Wynn or Robert Jones. Hopefully more as depth guys, but we need bodies in that room anyways. Got to play against Fred Taylor back in the day. That's sick. Yeah, I got to. I mean, I grew up in. I played high school in Southern California, and we were in a pretty good division, and got to play against a lot of guys who have played in like the college or NFL level. Played against like Michael Pittman Jr., Darnay Holmes. I was ahead. Some people that went to the same school as me, but I was ahead of them in class. Or like I was behind Dennis Pitta, the Baltimore Ravens tight end that retired, but like he went to the same high school that I went to, but he was like way ahead of me. But behind me was Drake London. Drake London went to the same school that I went to. And you would be surprised that like I remember like hearing about him at high school after I was gone, obviously, when he was at like on like a senior. He did not get used to his full potential in high school. I don't know how he didn't, because he was an absolute stud. A decent guard will cost us 15 mil plus. See, but I don't know. I think if you sign James Daniel, I think he's a decent card, and I don't know if I don't think he'll cost 15 mil plus. Because I think you could potentially find, like, if you can find like what you got Brewer at, or maybe a little bit more. Like, think about what we got at Brewer and Brooks last year. They were 7 mil each, and those were solid level players. Obviously, different positions, but I think you get a player for like less, like closer to like 10 mil. But we'll see how the class plays out. I know Trey Smith's going to get paid a lot. But you never know with free agency. Like, sometimes players get way overpaid that you weren't expecting, and then sometimes guys get a little bit underpaid, even less than expected, just because, I mean, people just didn't want him anymore. Yeah, Aaron Banks is another name to think, because he's played in for the 49ers. Nick Nash, yeah, San Jose State guy. I think he's probably a guy that's just going to go late. But yeah, he's like I haven't watched enough of him to know, but I'm imagining he's going to go late in the draft. But yeah, I know he's like a smart player, quick-footed, but he'll need to play against, some deeper competition. I'm very excited for the Senior Bowl. Ready for the Senior Bowl to happen. Yeah. Actually, it's so far away. I actually really have, there's so many options at 13. I really don't know what the Dolphins are going to do at this point. I'm sure I'll have a better idea once we get closer. But I feel like so much can change with the Senior Bowl and then the Combine, and then you start hearing about how people do in interviews and stuff like that. I have no idea if this draft there's no one like Quentin Nelson now. Next draft, I have no idea. I haven't looked at 2026 yet. It's tough to say. Yeah, it's definitely a thing, Scotty, that the guard play, O-line play overall is dropping. The Dolphins just need to be able to find the scheme fits, the guys that are underrated. Like last year with Brewer. They found Brewer, who was the absolutely perfect scheme fit, but wasn't seen as a high-end player because he didn't play that well for Tennessee. That's how it goes. Okay, where were you at in Southern California? Lived in Ventura and Santa Barbara for years. I lived in Ventura County. Yeah, I lived in Moore Park. That's where I went to high school. Back in the day. What up, Brian? Back to Aaron Banks, yeah. Well, I don't think Aaron Banks has played I don't think he hasn't been bad, but I don't think Niners, at least I haven't watched him play much, to be honest. I usually wait till we get closer to free agency to watch the free agents, but I don't think Niners fans love their offensive line players, and I think Banks is one they don't love. But I'm sure he's been better than Liam, though. Yeah, definitely want 2 new guards. To me, I'm going one in free agency, re-sign then some guys as well, re-sign Robert Jones, Isaiah Wynn, something like that to be your depth, and then try to draft one in round 2 or something, potentially round 1 if that's where the best player available is, to be your other starter. But yeah. You expect anything from Hines, Myers, or Hayes? Hines, no. Hayes, no. I think they're gonna try to develop Andrew Meyer to be your backup center. But if McDaniel's not around here long term, then I imagine Meyer's not going to give you much, because I think Meyer is the guy they're going to try to keep around. But if McDaniel goes, the guy that comes in will probably just switch up anyways. Walter Nolan. Yeah, Walter Nolan's he's a power 3-tech guy. I feel like, he shows some good, that first step, and you can see the violent hands. He's clearly a good athlete, but I don't think he plays up to his potential, because I feel like he plays with an inconsistent pad level, motor, balance, that type of situation. Because I feel like he'll test better than he actually looked on the field, athletically. So I'm a little bit lower on than I've seen him, because I've seen him go in the first round, I've seen him go in the second round. To me, he's he's a day 2 guy. He definitely has a lot of potential, but I'm a little bit lower on Nolan than some of the other class. I just wish he was more of an impact player, because you can clearly see the tools. It's just he's not impactful enough consistently for my liking. Yeah, there's some 1-techs and noses. Alfred Collins is a guy. Alfred Collins, Kenneth Grant, Tyreek Williams. 3 very good players in this class that I think can play 1-tech. could play nose for you too as well. But I think they're more one techs, but it's like the same thing. Like more of the interior guys. They're not 3 techs. They could give you some reps there, but they're very good at the point of attack. Big, athletic, and can hold their own versus the run. Maybe some inconsistencies as pass rushers, but that's not what you're drafting them for. But those are the guys I like. And I like them quite a bit. Like, they're very good players. Yeah. You expect anything from Cam Smith, Bonner, Duck, or Maitrey? I expect all the guys you just named to be stuck around. Probably like, Maitrey, practice squad. I imagine they're going to give Cam Smith another year to see if he has it or not. Obviously, he's had some injuries problems. Personally, I also think Bonner and the O-line you mentioned, I don't think any of them will. I could see that like Hines and Hastings practice squad, but I don't think they'll be on the roster. Meyer will probably be on the team as your backup center. Everyone you named here corner-wise, I think Smith, Bonner, and Duck will most likely be on the main roster. And I don't think they're that bad depth-wise. I personally would have Bonner over Duck, but they have Duck over Bonner. I wanted to see more Bonner, but we'll see how that plays out. I guess I have a little more faith in the corner depth and the O-line depth, but I wouldn't really expect any high-level play from any of those guys. I'd take a first-round pick for Tyreek, honestly. We won't get a first. I think we're hoping for a second, Right, if these guys were coming out in this year's draft, how would you rank them, Anthony? I mean, I haven't seen a lot of those guys. I wasn't watching draft prospects when a lot of those guys came out, but I did watch Nelson and Tristan Wirfs come out, and I liked those two a lot. So I wouldn't know how to rank them. I obviously have seen Tyron Smith and Richie Incognito play in the NFL. A second and fourth, that'd be great. Honestly, if you can get anything. I'm extremely high on Malik. I honestly think he's going to be a star. I love Malik. I don't know about a star, but I do think Malik's going to be a quality player for us. I haven't watched like highlights in a long time, like of players. I don't really watch highlights, but I did go back and watch Malik watching the highlights from college today, actually. Just because I wanted to go back and watch my guy. Yeah, Isaiah Johnson, another one who will be around fighting in training camp. He had a pretty good preseason. Preseason will be interesting. I don't think we can get a first for Tyreek because of his contract. If he was cheap, I think you could potentially get a first for him because he is obviously still a good player. But I just don't see, unless someone's desperate, I don't think we get a first. I don't even know if we get a second with his contract. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure someone will be desperate enough to give up a second, but I don't know. Yeah. I think, like what Scotty said, second and a fourth, that probably is like high end of what you would get for Tyreek right now. Should have traded him after he was the number one player. Yeah, I'm hoping McMorris can be the safety 3. I don't think you should go into the season relying on him as one of your top 2 starters, but yeah, I would like to see him be safety 3. Cam Scatabo, yeah. I like Scatabo. I do think the Dolphins need a player like that. It depends where Scatabo goes, because I think Scatabo's like around, like if they took him in like their late round 3, that would not be bad. Round 4 type situation. We do need that type of player. A second for Tyreek in 2025 or 2026? I mean, I was thinking 2025, but it could also be 2026, I guess. But I would imagine more 2025. Do you believe Marcus Golden? I'm assuming you mean Matthew Golden, the Texas receiver. I have him as a second round graded player, but I have him as a high second. So in this class, if you're a high second, that means you probably should go in the late first round, just because there's only like 13 or 14, 15 first round grade players. But I really like Matthew Golden a lot. He gives me like Stephon Diggs, Terry McLaurin type of vibes when they were coming out of college. Very good release package, very good explosive, twitchy route runner. Also, like, for not being the biggest guy, he's strong at the catch points, makes good adjustments. Golden's just the type of player that I really like and I think will be very good. Yeah, yeah. Would you do DK Metcalf for Tyreek? I don't think the Seahawks would do that. Unless, what? I don't know what Metcalf's contract situation is, actually. I don't know. I would just take the pick, personally. I would just take the pick. And if you get 2 picks, like a 2nd and 4th would be great, because the Dolphins need as many picks as possible. And I wouldn't be surprised. Like, obviously, Tyreek Hill is still a great player. I don't want to take that away from him. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins, moving on from Tyreek Hill, they got better at offense from last year to next year. It wouldn't surprise me, just because, not because they're getting better, player-wise. It's just from a balance standpoint, if they built the team in a different way, they just got more consistent. And Jalen Waddle, like, if there's any player in the NFL that can potentially replace Tyreek Hill in like his role, it would be Jalen Waddle. And you don't need 2 of those players. So. And then you're not trading Waddle. You want to keep Waddle because he's younger. I also think Waddle's just better for like your culture as well. Yeah. But I don't know. I do not know. Second round pick and a 3rd. I mean, if we got a 2nd and a 3rd, I'd love that, but I think a team would be, I don't know, I don't see it happening. A 2nd and a 3rd. I could see 1 and then maybe a later pick, but I don't think they get both of those. Tyreek trade before the draft, right? Yeah, that's what I would be trying to get, like, do it quick. Because you need as much help before the draft as possible. And they would trade him before the draft because McDaniel and Greer are probably thinking like, hey, this is probably our last chance to like win a playoff game. If they win a playoff game, they probably return, right? This is our last chance, and we need to get as much. They don't want to get a pick for next year if they're potentially gone. You got to think about it from the GM's perspective. He's not going to trade away to get a pick for someone else. Right, if we ate some of Tyreek's contract, it's possible we can trade him during the draft. I mean, I'm pretty sure we are going to eat some of his contract. Anyways. When do you think Scottigo is going to go? Probably like round 3 or 4, if I had to guess. Who you got on Sunday? Ugh. Honestly, I don't know. I'm going to guess Philadelphia again, just because I think the Commanders have the better quarterback, but Philadelphia just has the better team. And I don't think the Commanders can stop the run that the Eagles have, and they can control the game. As long as the Eagles keep the ball out of Hurts' hand, like they don't force Hurts to win the game, I think the Eagles win that. And then, for some reason, my gut is telling me this is the time the Chiefs lose to the Bills in the playoffs. Like, this is the time it happens. But I will be rooting for the Chiefs. So, I'm hoping the Bills do not win. Because I've seen people arguing about it, but like, I will never root for the Bills. I just can't do it. I'm sorry. I want the Bills to lose, so that's what I will be doing. Would you be surprised if a guy like Gunnar Helm jumps in the 2nd round? Be like, no, I would not be surprised at all if Gunnar Helm went 2nd round. Bro, I've seen Brenton Strains go 2nd round. I've seen Luke Schoonmaker go 2nd round. Gunnar Helm is way better than those guys. Like, so I wouldn't be surprised if Gunnar Helm. I've always thought of Gunnar Helm as a 2nd round pick. It's just I've seen in a lot of Other people have him in the third, and like mock drafts, he goes in the third. But I think he's a second round player with like Mason Taylor. And like Loveland's a second round player, Fannin, second round player as well. But they're just like different types of tight ends. If they trade Hill, I believe defenses would adjust to more single high looks. Yeah, that's fair, Garrett. That's a thing where it's like, hey, if you don't have Hill and Waddle, teams probably would play more single high against us than usual. Especially if you became more of a run-focused team, then teams would have more people in the box, and that would probably help your ability to push the ball down the field. That's why I think, technically getting rid of Tyreek is not going to make you more talented, but it could make your offense more consistent just because you're playing more complementary football. I think that is, if they do it the right way. Obviously, if they don't add the right pieces moving on from Tyreek, they could easily get worse as well. But yeah. Meant to say first round. Oh, Helm? I don't think he goes first, but who knows? In this class, I think a lot of things could happen. But I would guess not first now. We should be able to get an O-line starter at 13. I mean, you could definitely get a starter at 13 on the offensive line. It's just, I don't know. It just depends who's there. Would they be the best pick? There probably would be better options. I'm a hardcore Dolphins fan. I would way rather the Bills win. Nah, man. Like, just let the Chiefs win. They've already won. Who cares, like, they've been winning. What's another win mean? Nothing to me. Like, it's not like I want the Chiefs to win, but like, what's another win to me, man? I think it's way funnier if the Bills just never win one. Yeah, obviously Tyreek Hill's great. I think it just could be like a culture thing too. Tyreek's just never been my favorite player either, so I'm like it's pretty easy for me to move on from him. It's never like I've rooted super hard for Tyreek. I just think he's obviously very good. Would you take a third and fourth this year and a third next year for Tyreek from a team like the Jaguars? I mean, that's not that bad. That's pretty good. If I knew I was going to be the GM for the year after, yeah, I'd probably do it. If no one offered anything better, like if you got like a second and a fourth, then I'd probably do that. That would be pretty good value, I think. I don't know. Would you trade it for Mason Graham? If it wasn't like crazy price, I'm not a big trade up person, so like for the most part, no. But like if it was a good deal, I'd be like, he would be one of the players I would consider it for. Because I do think, like I talked about, I do think like Graham, Carter, Hunter are like some of the guys that I just think should be gone by the time the Dolphins pick. And I think Graham's really good. Graham is like, honestly, Mason Graham kind of is kind of like a Christian Wilkins type of player, honestly. What do defenses do if they no longer have to double Hill? Well, that's the thing, is they were doubling. They were not in the box, so that's why I was saying, like, if you do move on from Tyreek, if you were to change your identity and become a run first team, there could be a world where like they decide to stack the box to stop the run, and then that could open up more shots on the back end. Even if they double Waddle, because you'll still have other receivers, it would just create a lot of just room. Because it's not necessarily like they're just doubling Tyreek and Waddle, even though in situations they were doubling Tyreek and Waddle, playing like 2-man. But like when you're playing zone, you're not like doubling people. You might be bracketing in certain situations. But in zone, they were playing too high and they were taking away certain parts of the field. But usually how you would beat that is your running game. So like I think if they built more of a run-centric focus, that would be like it. Not necessarily whether Tyreek is here or not. I think that's what they should be doing anyways. But yeah. The problem with a trade of Tyreek Hill is that yes, it would save you around 14, but would have to eat 12 in dead money. Yeah, that is like the problem with it. It's just they. I think it really depends on like how their meeting went after the fact, after that final game of the season. You know, does he like really want to be here? Yeah, I think it's possible. I'm not saying this will be a Stephon Diggs situation, like what happened with the Bills. They got better without Stephon Diggs, but I think that's a possibility if you build your team the right way. Jeremy Chen, yeah, I like Jeremy Chen in free agency. Dolphins need safety, and I think he would be one that wouldn't be super expensive because they need to find a lot of like those middling free agents that are like maybe a little bit underrated that you can get for like decent signing. Like last year was Brooks and Brewer, Jonnu Smith, guys that have clearly contributed were great finds for the Dolphins. You need to try to find those guys again. Plus, I think one of the things was that Tyreek is obviously he was great, but there's too many big drops in big situations that really hurt the team. And then also, I feel like if Tua had miscommunications with players, it was typically Tyreek, him and Tua not being on the same page, him running the wrong route. I think maybe that has caused some tension too. No, I'm about to. I have in the past watched Sebastian Castro tape, Teddy, but it was a long time ago, and it was before I was taking notes on the prospects for this class. So like he is on my list to watch very soon, like rewatch again, because I can't remember. So yeah, I'm watching Sebastian Castro. I'm watching who am I also watching? I'm watching Lindenberg from Minnesota, linebacker, Minnesota. Got some other people to watch. More draft videos coming. I've already recorded a bunch of videos, guys, to get. I'm about to make a Jalen Royals video probably later today, or I'm gonna at least record it. I mean, yeah, they're either gonna restructure Chubb slash they might just even move on and cut Chubb. They'll definitely restructure Tua as well because that's like one of the big ones to save money. And then we'll see what happens with Tyreek and then Armstead probably. I feel like Armstead just retires anyways. Is there a chance Will Johnson falls to 13? I actually think there is. Out of the guys that I consistently see go top 10, I feel like Will Johnson is one of the ones that has a better chance of falling to 13 out of those guys. Imagine Waddle, Washington, Warren, Smith, Besh, Achane, and Wright. I mean, it would add some size and physicality to the room. And then you just get like more of a consistent running game with your O line. You have a wide tight end that can block. You have a receiver that can go out there and block now too. Maybe you add a running back. We'll see, but and that could help you balance it out. I mean, realistically, let's be honest. If Tua is healthy, the offense will be fine next year. If he's not healthy, the offense will suck. I mean, I guess that's pretty much what it comes down to. That's like the biggest difference. But there's things you can still do outside of that that can help whether he's healthy or not. If he's there, do you think? Yeah, if he's best player available, I think because I think there's a world where he's there and he's technically not best player available, but he would most likely be. And you know, Greer loves corners. I think he would definitely be definitely in consideration. Rayshawn Luke. I don't think I've watched him. There are some good receiving backs in the class though, like Brashard Smith, LaQuint Allen as well. I don't know. Achan. I'll have to watch him, see if he does have Achan potential. I was a big Achan fan. I know someone said that like McDaniel watches my videos because I was all over Achan and Malik Washington, and the Dolphins ended up taking them. That would be funny. This year, will they take my guys? I think I just know which type of players they like, and those were players that they would like. Oh yeah, Hunter Wohler. Yeah, that's another guy. I started watching him, so I've seen a little bit of him, but he is also going to be at the Senior Bowl, the Wisconsin safety. So I'm excited to see what he looks like. But he's a guy that's intriguing because he's got a good like size build to him. He's 6'2", 215. I think he's pretty instinctive, which I always like some instinctive safeties. Let me write. I need to add his name down to this list. Forgot to write it. Boom. But yeah, he is pretty solid. A good run defender as well. Plays in the box. Versatility, all that type of thing. I just don't think he's the best athlete. Kind of your typical like Wisconsin safety. Instinctive, smart, good size to him. Willing to get involved in the run game, make some hits, but a little like stiff in coverage type situation. Do they suck with Tua out because of the backup QB or the coach? Well, I think the backup QBs we've had just aren't good. And I think it's partially coaching. But I think the scheme is so predicated around, it's just a very hard system to play in. Like we've seen the Shanahan system for many years. It takes a very specific skill set. And like Shanahan went through a lot of QBs, and the best QB he had for a long time was Jimmy Garoppolo, and it just wasn't enough until he finally found Brock Purdy, who was like a better version of that. But like he's looked for a long time to find QBs, and a lot of them just have not been good in that system because it's a skill set it's a position that takes a very specific skill set, and most of those guys that have those skill sets are starters. So finding a backup with that skill set is difficult. Lathan Ransom. I think it's Latham Ranson. It's either Lathan. One of the names ends with an N and one ends with an M. I think it's Lathan Ransom. But yeah, he's another good run defense safety. He might be one of the better run defense safeties in the class. Not like my favorite prospect because I would prefer more cover stuff, but he's not. You want a guy that's going to come down and get involved in run support. That's a guy that you want. I do need to watch more safeties. Would you take Jalen Royals in the second? I mean, I'm probably going to have Jalen Royals graded as like a second round player. So yeah, I wouldn't be mad with that pick. Yeah. Are we interview? Yeah, they interviewed a receiver coach today, right? I think it was the receiver coach from the Cowboys, because the Cowboys, everyone on the Cowboys was their contract came up. I think it was like Prince was his last name. I don't really know anything about him. I just know he's the Cowboys receiver coach for a couple of years. Yeah. Literally, I just looked on Twitter. The first thing I see is from Chris Kaufman, CK Perry. He says, as right now, I assume Tyreek Hill will be traded. Two things. The pressure that causes that sort of blow up we see in waiting builds over time just doesn't, I assume he meant disappear. And then, yeah, it seemed like Greer and Rosenhaus were trying to clean up the situation. It does just feel like, whether you think they should trade Tyreek Hill or not, it feels like it's kind of going that direction because of the thing that happened at the end of the season. No, thank you. Where was it, man? But yeah, I forget where it was. But why don't Dolphins value physicality? Well, I think for a while, I think at certain positions they value physicality. Like they clearly, like going into this season, like they've started to value like, hey, we need more of a tight end that is physical with the ball in their hands, and they added Johnny Smith, and that clearly helped out the team. But I think they started valuing speed because when McDaniel watched Tua's film, he thought like, hey, he gets rid of the ball so quickly, we don't really need an offensive line. So I think that's why it started this way. But if you look at every sort of Shanahan system team, like McVay, the Packers, the Niners, over the years, they've put more and more of a value on physicality, like on the O-line. And it's not like they're not physical everywhere. Like I think their D-line was quite physical this year. I think Jordan Brooks, they've added, who was a physical player. But I do think they're going to start putting more, like if they don't put an emphasis on that physicality this year, like at the tight end position, like at Tyler Warren, who's a physical Y that could block something like that. And then at guard, I think the team will continue to find some struggles where they struggled last year. But hopefully they can learn that same lesson that they've all felt like they've been learning. Yeah. Chubb is definitely a potential post June 1st release. Probably the biggest chance of being one out of everyone. I would be down if Ramsey played like the Hamilton role and just played safety, nickel everywhere. Played less corner, because I actually think like if you watch Ramsey this year, like he's obviously still a good player. It's just I feel like too often or not when he's playing pure man to man, like he plays too he plays too much out of phase, and I feel like that's just not what we need out of like your outside number one corner. What happened to Holland? You know, I think it was just one of those things, man, where like it's one of those years where you just have a down one. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to another team and just has a much better year, but like you cannot afford to pay him for what he's going to get, because I think he's young. He had a lot of good seasons even before this past one. He's going to get paid a lot of money, and Dolphins cannot afford to pay him that money. Ooh. I would guess like Shamar Stewart, because Stewart is like also a freak athlete, but he's a much bigger freak athlete. Like Shamar Stewart's like 6'6", 285 with insane power that can set the edge for you. But he's also a guy that's kind of raw. But he would be the guy that would complement like a Chop Robinson if they were to go edge, which I don't think they should. But that would be someone I wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins were interested in. Tua. You know what it is? It's I don't think it's necessarily about Tua being fat, like that kept him healthy, that like him being a little fatter made him take hits. I think it just made him less likely to run. So like that to me, that's what he should do. It's like he can put on a little bit of weight. I don't think he should go back to what he was, because I do think I value his ability to move still, but he just needs to not run with it. Like he can still move within the pocket or escape the pocket and throw, but that's what he needs to do. If he's going to escape the pocket, the only times he should run is if there's clearly no one there. Like he has an easy first down without having to slide. Like he can run out of bounds. Because that's why he was getting hurt. I think if he just was running less because he didn't have any mobility. Because I think him having the mobility clearly helped. Because he made a when he was playing plays off script, he actually was one of the better QBs, like efficiency wise, making plays off script when he was asked to do it, or when he was put in a position to do it. It's just he needs to slide in those situations. I understood why he didn't slide, because it was like a 3rd and 4th down situation. He wanted to dive for the first down. But at this point, I think it's like, hey, just slide or don't even run. Just if you're in a position where you can just throw it away. You think Weaver gets Saints head coach? I don't know. I mean, I saw he was going for a second interview. I don't know what their other options are like. I haven't been paying that close of attention, but I still feel like it's not going to happen. But it definitely could. You think Poyer screwed him over? Who, Holland? Maybe. Poyer probably was the worst safety that Holland played next to. I think it's fine if Tua moves around. It's just he shouldn't move past the line of scrimmage very often. And if he does, he needs to slide. McCarthy interviewed with New Orleans. Yeah, and I knew he was and he was like one of the Bears options, right? But the Bears obviously got Ben Johnson, so I don't know. I just feel like the Saints. I just feel like teams aren't going to take a chance. Like the reason I'm saying I don't think it's going to happen is because usually they don't quite take a chance on a guy that hasn't been a head coach before. It has only been a coordinator for 1 year right away, unless they're like that guy. Like they were clearly the best at that job in the NFL. So I feel like if he does get a chance, it'll be later on. Plus, if he does get a head coaching job down the line, if he were to stay here and get hired somewhere else, wouldn't they get they would get comp picks for it, right? That's why I hope Reggie McKenzie gets hired as someone's GM. Because I'm pretty sure they would get comp picks for it. That would be sick. Da-da. Yeah. I mean, hey, this is the year. This is the final year of that window that I think they put themselves into. They either do enough to save their jobs or they don't. And then you blow it up and you start over. And 2026 would be the year you start over. That's why I think they ran another year, because if you look at the way they built their team, the cap space, the players they have, if they did start over this year, it's a start over where like you're the worst team in the league start over, like, because they are not in a great position. So like they have to throw it all now, and then if it doesn't work, then you're starting over in 2026. Us 5 Miami head coach for rookies. Yeah. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you hire a guy who's had a head coaching job before. It works. Sometimes it doesn't. You just got to get the right guy. I think Tua was 38th in running first downs at 6. Yeah. I mean, he wasn't running a lot like forward for first downs. I just think he was running more often than he was before. And then, but he was definitely creating more off script. Like that was by far the most he's created off script. Like I'm saying, like getting outside the pocket and throwing the ball, since like his rookie season. And he's actually quite good at it. I'm pretty sure he was second in EPA off script. He didn't do it the second most often, but I'm saying like he was second in EPA on off script plays. Because Tua's always been, Tua's always been obviously an anticipation, timing, accuracy thrower, but I do think he's always had pretty good pocket awareness. And when he had his athleticism, he's always been able to create off script. It's just there was years where he didn't have the athleticism, either from being fresh off the hip injury, or that 1 year he put on a lot of weight and he didn't have that athleticism. And obviously he's never been the most athletic guy to begin with. But yeah, okay. Any more questions? Anything draft related? Any final things? Before I head out, because I'll have more draft videos up. I've been making a bunch of draft film breakdowns, so check those out. Yeah, I'm about to end it, Tiger V. So AFC more competitive when we took a step back. I mean, yeah, some teams took a step up, some teams took a step back. That's how it goes. Scout punter. I will never scout any kicker, punter, or long snapper. I have no idea what I would be looking at. Like, oh yeah, he can kick it far. Cool, take him.